Welcome to Life Science Marketing Radio, the podcast where marketing leaders inside and outside the sciences share their creative ideas and practical approaches to increasing your marketing ROI. Here's your host, Chris Connor.
Anis Fahandej-Sadi is the founder and editor of the TLDR biotech newsletter. He's also the founder of Science to Sales, helping biotech service and product providers with lead gen strategy and execution. Anis, welcome to LSMR.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let's talk about your newsletter. I think people should definitely check it out because it's, we'll talk about it. But what inspired you to start TLDR Biotech, and anything changed around your motivation since you launched it?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Just about a year and a quarter, I think, since we launched it back in April, May of 2024. I think the two big inspirations, one was back in the day, and I guess back in the day is like a couple years ago, right? Which these days feels like it's been decades. But I was doing this news compilation thing on LinkedIn called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where I was kind of inspired by that old Western film where I would take 5 to 6 news pieces across each category. I would categorize them as good, bad, and ugly, and I would just post them on LinkedIn with a funny little caption. That was getting some traffic, and I started learning more and more about newsletters as a business, as a way of kind of getting your name and your brand out there and to build an audience. And I think Beehive kind of was launching around that time, which is the service I use to promote the newsletter, and they've had some crazy growth since then. And so I thought, I'll take these two ideas and put together this sort of quick, skimmable newsletter. And that's the other thing, is that I did sales and BD in life sciences across instrumentation and services for a couple of years, for about 3 to 4 years. And to keep up with everything, I had to subscribe to, and I still subscribe to, like 10 different news sources, right? The main guys and some of the more niche ones like Fierce, Biopharma Dive, Endpoint, Stat, Biospace, et cetera, and it's just so many emails to track every day to kind of keep up with everything. So if I had something like TLDR Biotech back in the day, where it's just one email once per day, it's skimmable, you can quickly run through and find what's of interest to you, but at the same time understanding what's going on in the industry at a higher level, I would have loved to have it. So they say build the thing that you wish existed, so that's kind of what I've done with TLDR Biotech.
Yeah, you have, and I love the format, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why I really encourage people to check it out. And also, it's a fun read because you put in some memes or some GIFs that definitely get your attention.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had one person recently say, hey, I love the newsletter, but I hate the GIFs. I absolutely detest them. And I was like, okay, thanks for the feedback. If it's not for you, I guess, I'm sad to see you go, but maybe that's a good thing, right? If you get strong opinions from people, that means you're providing something that provides some sort of emotional feedback, and that usually drives engagement. So I'm sticking to it.
Yes, I think that's the right call. I mean, I always say, it's like if you're skiing, if you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough, right? Yeah. Or anything else. And if you don't get any reaction like that, then maybe your newsletter isn't memorable at all. So it's not for everybody. But, you have generated a response. And certainly, the people who dislike it are probably, more likely to speak up. So there's probably plenty of people who go, oh, yeah, that makes it fun and unique.
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't change that.
Okay. I won't. Thanks, Chris.
Right?
Yeah. But I appreciate that. I'm sticking to it.
If it goes away, you'll get a strongly worded email from me.
Exactly. Exactly. I expect honesty from you. So,
talk about finding, you sort of did, but product market fit for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, it hasn't been the most straightforward journey. And to be frank, that's still kind of the challenge at the moment. So for about, we'll say, a year, I was taking two things were happening. One, I was taking the newsletter way too. I was taking it seriously, but I wasn't taking it seriously in the right way. Like I was still in it too deeply. I was still doing things very manually. I was trying to build out a separate product that didn't really have a fit, and so for a long time I wasn't building it the right way. So I spent too long on it. I was treating it like a full-time thing when it should have been a side hustle, right? So around May, I actually like stopped publishing at all. I basically put out an email saying like, hey, this is the deal. It's not growing. It's not making enough money. I need to like take a step back. And so I took a step back and I decided to relaunch it, but I've optimized a lot more on the back end. And so it takes up a lot less of my time to put together basically an equivalent quality newsletter. But now it's just a matter of continuing to grow it as a side project and at the same time building in more revenue streams. So currently the model is sponsorship and advertiser focused. So we do have advertising slots within the newsletter where we have people come in and have that sort of sponsorship. And that's the focus currently, and that's what we're going to be doing for the near future at this point. But in terms of like, solid product market fit, I think it's there, but it's more of I need to grow it more. It needs to have a bigger audience. I need to get the word out more. That's what I'm currently kind of navigating with LinkedIn. But I'm hoping to expand it more, like being on podcasts like this. I have these longer form pieces of interview content that I'm doing, personality driven content with different individuals in the industry. That's where a lot more of the focus for the, I guess the PMF is kind of coming in, like getting in more audience, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a lesson for any media, I would say, in my experience. Like, you're doing the right thing to spend less time making it and more time distribution. Right, is the challenge with any content, whether it's media or not.
Especially because I don't want to. Maybe not ideally, but you can drive a lot of growth through paid acquisition. So you pay for advertisers, you pay for ads within the Beehive network, as an example. You pay for Google ads, you pay for LinkedIn ads, right? But I don't want to like funnel tens of thousands of dollars into growing this thing. I want to try growing it organically, which is free, right? But just now you're at the whims of the algorithm. You're at the whims of virality. That's just an entirely different ballgame. But there are some bigger newsletter businesses that are not biotech focused, just like general business focused, like 1440 Media. Like they're a news compilation. They're a news compilation newsletter. They have like 4 or 5 million subscribers, something ridiculous like that. But they funnel like I think 6 figures into their advertising budget probably monthly. Like they're spending gobs of money to acquire readers, right?
Wow.
I'm not at that level yet. Maybe at some point, but right now it's mainly organic traffic. That's what we're focusing on.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your career path, how you got here. So you've worked, I mean, recently before the newsletter in sales. Right. Before that, I think you taught English in Korea and were a digital nomad.
It's a while ago. Yeah, it was a while ago.
How do all those things like influence what you're doing now? What did you bring from all those things to your work now?
It's a good question. It certainly hasn't been the smoothest path. There's been, as with most people's, as with life in general, there's always ups and downs. There's challenges. I think Korea doesn't really fit into the grand scheme other than like I just wanted to do something different after grad school. The big move was coming back to Canada after that year in Korea. It was end of 2019. I had a master's in chemistry and I wanted to do sales and business development. Like that was my interest. I didn't want to do lab work anymore. It just wasn't for me. And West Coast Canada, there's not that many chemistry-focused sales roles, but there are more life science sales roles, like life sciences, medical devices, instrumentation, etc. So my first job ended up being selling liquid handling systems for research, so autopipetting robots. And then from there, I got a role at Cytiva where I was helping to sell their aseptic filling equipment, so sterile injectable manufacturing. And then from there, I worked at Omnia Bio, which is a cell and gene therapy CDMO based out of Ontario, Canada. And so from that experience, it was great. I'd gotten a chance to kind of do some traveling when I was at Cytiva because they're multinational, so I was able to work from a few different places. But then I really wanted to have some more flexibility in terms of my work environment for a little bit, and so I thought I'll foolishly try and start a business and try to get that off the ground and just work from anywhere. So I did that for about, let's say, the last 2.5 years. That's kind of what I've been trying to do. So with initially Science to Sales was career coaching, helping scientists move into business development and sales roles for a number of reasons that didn't really scale out. Then I moved to TLDR Biotech, the newsletter, which is currently going, but now this focus has shifted a bit there. And then currently, pending a few other things that might happen, which I don't want to disclose yet, the focus now is more building out the Science to Sales as a lead generation and prospecting business. So the premise is, if you're selling services or selling products within life sciences or biotech, your business development people should be focused on closing deals that already exist. They should be helping to push deals through the pipeline. They shouldn't be spending a bunch of their time prospecting and cold calling and trying to bring in new business, which isn't, let's say, a high value task, right? Your BD people are paid well. They should be spending time on the most impactful work, which is driving those deals forward. What we would do is come in and help to generate those leads initially. We do all the cold calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn. That's essentially the premise we have. And we have me and a team of people that know life sciences, that know science, that know how to sell to scientists. And that's what we're selling as a service. So we have one client currently, and we're looking to expand further. And that's, assuming a couple other things, that is the main focus for the business, or what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I want to dig into that, so don't let me forget. I mean, 'cause
okay.
I'm at that age.
Yeah.
But but I want to go back, how you learned. You started out in chemistry, moved to life science. I don't think that's a huge leap. Maybe you did. But from science to sales, that's something a lot of people might be interested in, but also struggle with. What was your learning process when you came back and said, I want to get into business development?
I think it was a lot of, I think the environment is a lot better now because there is more awareness of that trajectory, and there's more training and more opportunities and more knowledge of, if you want to sell to scientists, or you want to sell within biotech or life sciences, there is training available and things like that. I don't know, at least in my experience back then, I just applied for those roles where I was like, I have a science background, but I want to do sales, and they were hiring, and I got in, and I had to learn a lot on the job. I had to learn a lot by myself. I had to go find my own resources. I had to go learn on my own how to do prospecting, how to do intro calls, how to push deals forward, all of that. So it was a big learning curve. I guess, I don't know, advice for people that are interested in doing this, there's a lot that you could do. I think really understand why you want to leave the lab and why you want to do sales, and then just kind of put yourself out there, right? LinkedIn is it's still popping off. LinkedIn still has a lot of growth potential. So post on LinkedIn, network with people there, be very open to the fact you want to move into a sales type role. There's so many free resources out there when it comes to just sales in general. Start reading those things. Start learning about what it takes to become a good sales or business development person within life sciences. You can look up now life sciences sales, and there are resources. There are things you can look into.
Yeah. I think some of those resources have been on this podcast. But aside from that, I mean, I'm honestly a little surprised that you didn't get more training from the people that hired you one path that I always envisioned, I don't know if this was you, was a field application specialist, where you're on the sales team, but you're using your science or even just your knowledge of science to explain how things work. And at the same time, you're watching how a salesperson does their job, and you get the idea of what to do. But being thrown into the deep end and just saying, go out and start prospecting,
it was a lot.
Somewhat terrifying.
Yeah, it was a lot, but that's also kind of the way you learn the best. I think if I had done a one-to-one, like, I don't know, as an example, as a chemist, which is my training, I worked with gas chromatography and liquid chromatography. So if I had ended up getting a job at a company that sold gas chromatography and liquid chromatography equipment, it would make perfect sense for me to have become like a field application scientist for a bit and to go and help install and troubleshoot those systems, right? Since I had moved into life sciences sales, right, I had never worked on, and that was the funny thing, like I had never worked on liquid handling equipment in life sciences. I had never worked on those sorts of systems. And so I was not in a position to be a field service rep, right? I had to go into sales directly. But for a lot of people, that might be the transition, is to go into a field service role first, or some sort of technical support, customer success role first, and then move into sales or marketing even. Like those are all valid paths. Just depends on, the organization and what's available. It's a lot of different options out there, a lot of different ways it can go.
Yeah, but it's encouraging to know that, even if you're not going to sell the thing that you're used to working with, it can be done.
Yes, it can be done. Yeah, it can be done
with a lot of work.
With a lot of work,
which people typically,
as a scientist, as someone with a science background, you're naturally curious, right? There's a reason that you got into this. You're naturally curious. You're driven. Learning new things is part of the job. With, I guess, any role, but especially sales, you need to kind of understand. You don't have to understand at a deep technical level, but the more you do, the better. But you have to understand enough to actually talk to people that are working with those systems or those services every day. And as a scientist, you're curious, you've been trained to learn. So it is kind of a natural fit to go in on the deep end and just learn as you go and learn those things from your own motivations.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about your business a little bit then. And I actually remembered it. So,
sure.
I wrote a post last week about sales and marketing alignment. I'm speaking at a conference in DC on Thursday. This will have happened by the time anyone's listening to this. But sales and marketing alignment is always a topic. And What you just described was sort of a separation of powers, if you will, where sales should really be spending their time pursuing deals that are in the pipeline. Legitimately qualified leads would be the starting point, right?
Yeah.
And so your business aims to make those things happen for people.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then I'm just wondering, to what extent, I realize you don't want to talk about it too much yet, but to what extent do you, and I love that. So how do you see the handoff, I guess, or you're going to have a process for finding what, you have to understand the ideal customer profile, where to find those people, and all the activities that are going to take to get them to respond in some way and presumably qualify them up to the handoff. Is that?
I guess also apologies in advance because there's a garbage truck in the alleyway behind my apartment, and it might
stuff happens. That's what podcasting is all about. This summer, they're building a whole new development across the street from where I live, and every day you can't hear it here, but it's beep beep beep. There's heavy equipment backing up constantly.
Oh gosh, yeah. I can't hear anything on my end, but yeah, you're right. Like sales and marketing, there's always it's like a running joke, right? Like they're always fighting each other. They're always bashing heads. One thinks they're more important than the other, etc. And the cliche or the trope is that they should work together, right? It is supposed to be a seamless transition, right? And prospecting and top of funnel is kind of that weird mix of the two, because it isn't sales in the sense that you're driving a deal to close, but it also isn't full marketing because you're not sending out mass messaging or persona level messaging. It's not one-to-one, right? It's where you're doing this one-to-one messaging, but it's also to drive new business. So the way that we go about it is, I would say it's pretty standard as a process. It's just that instead of your salespeople doing that, we'll call it high repetition work, we're now doing that. So we would work with you for the first week or so to understand your business, understand your ideal customer, understand your growth goals, like what sort of segments or what sort of personas are you looking to really aggressively expand? What do these people care about? What keeps them up at night? What scares them about product X, Y, and Z or service X, Y, and Z? And then we craft the messaging, and then we go out and prospect on your behalf for that. So through cold email, cold LinkedIn, cold email, LinkedIn, as well as cold calling. We have another thing on the top end, which I'm a big fan of, and I think is also slowly starting to percolate within the biotech zeitgeist, which is LinkedIn as a personality-driven platform, which I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but for the longest time, people thought we'll just use our company profile, we'll just have generic messaging, corporate messaging, we'll keep it pretty bland, and like that's good enough because we're in science and we're serious, right? But I think the narrative's shifting now, where people are understanding that it has to be a personality-driven process. You have to have your executives with active LinkedIn profiles, and there are some people doing great work in this space already. Benjamin McLeod, like he's the guy for this when it comes to cell and gene therapy. Joachim Eckhout, I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but he has the life science marketer. Yeah,
previous episode a couple weeks ago. Yep.
Exactly. So he does some great work when it comes to just life science marketing in general, but also talking about LinkedIn. Probably the two best people I would say for like executive driven LinkedIn profiles are Steve Harvey at Kamena Biosciences, as well as I think Philip Bask at I forget his company name. But do you know who I'm talking about? You know,
I
Philip?
don't. I might.
Philippe?
But I haven't talked to him. Steve Harvey's been on my podcast, on my science podcast. Yeah, but I think I know the name that you're referring to, but I don't know him personally.
Yeah, but like he does some really great LinkedIn content as well. And the thing is, it's not even, and that's the great thing, is that with Steve, I think he's a lot more of like the build it, what's it called? Building in public, where he talks about Kameno and like the challenges and the customers and like, but it's not in a way that's, here's our stuff, we're awesome, buy our stuff. It's more just like join me on the journey and see all the stuff we're working on. Whereas Philip is more, I guess it's like LinkedIn thought leadership, executive thought leadership. Like, here's how I kind of built the business. Here's how I think about employment and like treating my employees well and just navigating that environment. And I think Nanotemper, that's his business, Nanotemper. And he has a really interesting perspective because he bootstrapped not only a life sciences business, but like an instrumentation life sciences business, which seems like an impossibility. Like, how could you do that without getting venture funding? But he did it. But anyway, and then the last thing is that PayPal recently posted a job, which was like CEO content or something. Like, it was a role where your entire job was to generate like social media content for PayPal CEO. And the starting salary was like 120,000 USD or something like that. Right. And so and everyone on LinkedIn that is interested in LinkedIn content for executives is looking at this and being like, hey, this is where the market's going, right? This is where it's all about personality driven content now. This is how you can build a flywheel of good press and traction for your products. And now, instead of what you're doing being cold outreach, right, where you're calling people out of the blue and you have to explain what you do or what you offer, you can now call them and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing, this sounds familiar. I think I've seen some stuff on LinkedIn. Oh, like I recognize the name, that sort of thing. So that's another thing we would offer on top of the prospecting service, right? To build out those executive profiles, not only executive profiles, but also your BD reps, right? So your business development people, so their name is also getting out there, because that's also important. It's just like, ideally every person on your team that interacts with customers at any point, either before or after the sale, should probably be active on LinkedIn and should probably have content coming out.
You're preaching to the choir. I mean,
Yeah.
I think both of those, Steve and Philippe, their approaches are completely legit. With Steve's, I think, and I haven't seen his content in a while, but from my point of view, I talk about this a fair amount, is that I love watching how people do things. I mean, I watch more YouTube than anything else. I might be the world record holder of YouTube watchers, period. And a lot of it is how people do what they do. So I find that fascinating. I think the whole personality-driven thing, as you say, I mean, if you're posting, you should have a company page, you should post things there, but really the focus, what gets attention, and I'm going to write a post about this tomorrow and hopefully come out later this week or next week, because I was just thinking about it today. In my own experience on LinkedIn, the posts that do the best are stories I tell about how I got to where I am, just personal experiences, or when I've interviewed someone else about their personal experiences. And it's never about science or marketing. I mean, those do well, but never, by far, the personal stories do better. And they create engagement because the way people want to interact with other people on LinkedIn. So it's not the only thing you should be doing, but I think it's definitely worth the effort that people might not immediately recognize.
I agree with that, and it's something I need to do more. I'm not really that good at sharing more personal things on LinkedIn, and when I do, I guess they do well. That's kind of the challenge right now, is I'm trying to figure out what's the best way I can leverage my LinkedIn profile for promoting the newsletter, but at the same time also science to sales. I might have to kind of split the two, or maybe do more company-driven content, but it's all a process, right? I only have a certain amount of brain processing power that I can dedicate to this, but it's a challenge I need to figure out.
Right, and for any executive or BD person, it's hard to do it yourself. I've sent personalized videos to people. Matthew Ray Scott's a genius at this. He teaches people how to do it. It works well for them. I've had mediocre success with that. It's hard to do it by yourself, but having someone to work with, to talk to pull ideas out of you. I mean, I'll throw my name in there as someone who, that's essentially what I'm trying to do as well, is to just have those conversations. Find someone who's curious and let them talk to you. And then, you know, and I know, that you get any scientist or founder talking about their work, they won't shut up. But put them in front of a blank page, it's like, what do I do? I have the same experience, right?
Everyone has something to share that's useful.
Yeah.
Everyone has content.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It's good.
It's I mean that's how I built this podcast. So a lot of episodes, especially early on, were not intended to turn into, they weren't intended as podcast episodes, but I'm on the phone with somebody and they mention something and I go, oh, I don't know enough about that. Which, you know, I want to hear more about that. Should we do a podcast? Yes. That's how it happened. And surprisingly often. So you may not think you have a story, but there's someone who doesn't know what you do that would like to know.
Yeah. That's the other thing, since we mentioned like not just podcasts, but like video content. That is like, that's something I also want to get into, but like I have my own, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I have my own like insecurities about how I look and like how I'm going to perform on video format. So this is kind of one way of getting out there as a podcast like this, but like consistent short form content on LinkedIn. I think that's also where things are going. That might be one of those, the next frontier. right? But I don't know. That's something to consider as well if you're looking to expand your LinkedIn presence.
Yep, I absolutely do. Anis Fahan. I mean, I'm going to have to edit this one.
It's okay.
Anis Fahandesh Sadi. Thank you so much. This has been a blast, and I appreciate you sharing what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Chris Connor. I appreciate the
with an ER.
With an
That's
ER.
what happens to me all the time.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a
Connor,
big deal in our
Connor.
family if someone spells our name right. So.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the time today. It was great to chat, and hope this was a good conversation.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're still listening, that tells me you enjoyed the podcast. But don't tell me, tell your friends, and I'll be back soon with another episode. Okay, you can tell me too. Send an email, chris@lifesciencemarketingradio.com. Bye-bye.